This edition of the Roundball Report will discuss the ongoing NBA playoffs, as well as the GM search for the Washington Wizards with two Roundball Report favorites. Former co-host and long-term friend of the Roundball Report, current-day basketball analyst, color analyst for so many networks. We'll just name a few of them: NBC Sports Washington, Big Ten Network, ESPN, and the voice of the Washington Mystics, Christy Scott, as well as another good friend of the show, former University of California and Morgan State University coach, Todd Bozeman, who is current-day color analyst for the HBCUGO Network. So sit back, relax, get ready for your weekly dose of serious hoop talk, because the Roundball Report is next. Hello, I'm Andrew Dyer, and welcome to another edition of the Roundball Report, the only show in the area dedicated to highlighting the episodes of the high school, college, and professional basketball teams which play in the Washington metropolitan area. And we're going to get things started today. We're going to talk about the ongoing NBA playoffs, which have been very exciting with the exception of one series where Philadelphia swept Brooklyn. And here with us to weigh in with their insights are two long-term friends of the show, friends of mine and friends of the show. My former co-host and dear friend, Christy Scott of NBC Sports Washington, the voice of the Mystics, ESPN, and the Big Ten Network, and former University of California and Morgan State University head coach, Todd Bozeman, who's currently a color analyst for the HBCUGO Network. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Roundball Report.
Oh, always a pleasure, Drew. You know that. This is family right here. All love, always.
I appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And we were talking before we got on air about how crazy these playoffs have been. And playoff Jimmy Butler, at the time of our taping, struck at historic levels last night as they were down by 12 points with 6 minutes left. And he scored 22 points in the fourth quarter, 21 in the first quarter, 56 for the game, and has the number one seed Bucks, who played with Giannis, on the verge of elimination. Christy, you were on the plane during that flight, but you said you had a chance to see some of the video. What can you say about this historic performance, the best in Heat franchise history? And they've had some great players, including 3 championships.
Oh, no doubt. And when you have Eric Spoelstra, who says that Jimmy Butler is the smartest player he's coached, like just tactically speaking, and he said that. So, you know, he's like another coach on the floor. It's like the players play, obviously, but there's a different level when a coach can say that about a player. Like they're on the same page in terms of the discipline, the consistency, but also the expectations. So I think for him to go off the way that he did and not just lead statistically, but also mentally down the stretch in that game, it was just all in his hands, and he wanted that moment and he embraced it. But it wasn't just that he was hunting shots. So let me get this bucket. It wasn't like, let me just fire away. He picked and chose his spots with wisdom. Okay. He took great opportunities to score. He knew that the team needed him to play at that level because no one else was really hitting that efficiently well. So he had to do it. And for him to do it that impressively well was just, it was spectacular. And just like, you text me, you were like, Jimmy Butler's going off, and I'm like, oh my God, I just landed. What's happening? But I did see the clips, and and I saw his poise and composure too in the post game presser, just steady. But that's the way he played the game as well.
And Bose, what can you do as a coach offensively? Obviously, you just say give him the ball and get out the way. But defensively, he was going against Giannis and Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, a dynamic defensive team, and he gave them the business. What can you do in that situation?
It's unbelievable that we've seen his maturation in the league and seen him get better and better every year. I mean, he kind of, as the youngsters say now, he got it out the mud, and he just grinded, and he is a straight gangster. And so when you play against a guy like that, if you're the opposing coach, I was actually surprised they didn't do something like double him more to get the ball out of his hands early on. But I think sometimes when you have such a outstanding team like Milwaukee does, they play with a confidence that, okay, yeah, you getting yours, but when it gets cut, when it gets down to the end, we're gonna, our guys are better than yours, or we have more guys than you have, and at some point we're gonna wear you down. But Jimmy didn't wear down. He just kept going and kept going. His stamina is unbelievable, and the consistency of his focus is tremendous. I mean, Christy already spoke about his basketball IQ, and Spoelstra spoke about it as well. So you put those things together with that toughness. I mean, when he went and dunked that ball on Giannis, that was unbelievable that he was able to do that and had no fear with it. But if as an opposing coach, you want to try to double him to get the ball out of his hands, and you want to say, hey, they're already down. They're now down 2 guys. And so you're sitting there going, hey, listen, we can't let one guy beat us. So we got to double him. You can double him early. You can then try to make sure he doesn't get the ball back. You got to give him different looks, because at some point, if he gets comfortable with whatever defense you're throwing at him, then you have to change it up. But it's kind of deflating to watch a guy get 21 in the first half and then get 22 in one quarter. Like that's unbelievable to me. But hats off to him and the Miami Heat, because they're continuing to battle, and now they're 1 game away from advancing.
And Christy, to hear Spoelstra say that he's the smartest player he's ever had, having coached LeBron and Dwayne Wade, that speaks volumes.
That part. I mean, think about that. I mean, you just hear about how LeBron now, 20 years in, is breaking things down the way that he is, and he just says, hey, I want that responsibility. I want everybody else to play free, but I am calculating every single thing that's going on the floor. But I think he's developed into that. Okay, he had LeBron when he was a younger player, but with Jimmy Butler, I just think that's just that's just an ultimate compliment. And you all have coached, so you understand when you have a player that is on that same page in terms of what decisions need to be made for the success of the team. That's just a huge level of respect from Erik Spoelstra to give to him, no question about it.
Now, Bose, that put them up 3-1 in the series, and this is a 1 versus an 8 seed. Do you think that Jimmy has another performance like that in him, or is Milwaukee has to do something different in Game 5?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't bet against the fact that he has another one of those games in him. I definitely wouldn't do that. You would think that at this point in the game, you got to know that Milwaukee is going to do something different. They are going to change it up. But I did want to speak to the fact that his knowledge of the game and his effort and him playing off of and using his teammates. Now, he did have 56, but those other guys played a valuable roles in that game, because they hit big shots. They got him the ball. They played defense. It was a great game and a tremendous comeback. But a guy like that gives his teammates confidence. When you're playing with a guy like that, you're like, hey man, we know Jimmy gonna get a bucket, so we just gotta make stops. We just gotta do what we have to do the little things, the dirty work, and he'll carry us through. And he absolutely did.
Christy, do you think Milwaukee has a shot? I mean, they're the number 1 seed. They're going back to Milwaukee. I think it's going to be a lot of pressure. If Milwaukee is able to pull off Game 5, then Game 6 is obviously going to be the really crucial game if Milwaukee is able to stay alive.
The only reason I'm going to say yes, I think they have enough to force an extension of this series, is because they've won a title before. So they've had their backs against the wall. They've had pressure situations, and they stepped up to that and stepped into that. And I think this is no different. I think they're going to be ready for the moment. I think they're going to be ready to lay it all on the line, nothing to lose. They're at home. They have a lot of things going for them with all of that momentum, right? To extend it, but also to have home court, to have the fans behind them in critical moments during the game. I think is going to be very vitally important. But I think, you cannot quantify what winning a title means for your psyche, like previously winning it. And not everyone on that roster, I get it, but there are enough core guys on that Bucks team who have won a title, who understand what it takes. They're not going to back down. They're not going to lay an egg in this game, I'll tell you that. And if they don't win it, it's going to come down to the wire, and they're going to have to lose it. It's going to be they just don't have it like in a couple possessions. They have turnovers or something like that that take the game away from them. But it's not going to be because they lay down and say, "Oh man, this is too tough for us." I think they're ready for that moment, but I think it's going to be close. And if it is close, they understand how to close it out.
Bose, do you think Milwaukee still has a shot?
Well, again, I mean, basically what I'm telling you is that I'm not betting on this series either way because I wouldn't bet against them for all the things that Christy just said. And I mean, Giannis had a triple-double last night. So that just kind of goes under the radar because Jimmy had 56. But he had a triple-double. And so now if you just get somebody else, when they go back home, that arena is going to be bananas. So they're going to have the six man on their side, and they're going to have all that energy in the arena. So I do expect them to come back to Miami, but when they come back, then the pressure is actually going to be on Miami. I think it's going to be more pressure on them if it comes back. If they can get it done in Milwaukee, I think this is the game for them to get it done. I just don't know how they can come back and then beat them again back in Miami.
I remember when I was a kid, Christy, you may be a little too young to remember this, but when the Washington franchise got their only championship, they actually came back from 3-1 in a series and they route to the championship. So, and of course, LeBron did it with the Cavaliers in 2016. So never say never.
Right. Never say never. And didn't that happen with KD?
Yes. That's what made him to leave OKC. They were up 3-1 and Golden State came back and won that series and went on to win the championship.
Yeah, anything is possible. Hey, that's why we love it, right? The unpredictability of it. But you know what each team needs to do. Like we have all these analytics, we have all this stuff, but you understand what each team needs to do to survive and advance. And it just turns the table most times. Like you start the game, you're watching the game, and then you're expecting one thing like defensively out of a team, and they don't do that. They do something totally different, and then there are adjustments made on the other end. So it's just the chess of it all, the chess match of it all that's intriguing at this point of the season all the time.
Well, like Bose, I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not putting any money on it, but I'm saying, in my opinion, I believe the Bucks are going to win it because I believe in a 7-game series, the better team wins the majority of the time, even though the playoffs are made for stars. But let's move on elsewhere. Where speaking about that championship grit, Golden State, Steph Curry had a momentary brain cramp in the closing seconds the other day, but they were able to get a missed shot by Harrison. What's his last name? Harrison Barnes. Thanks. And they held on by 1 point. And De'Aaron Fox was playing with a broken pinky, but they've already reported he's going to come back in Game 5. But this Sacramento team is showing that they're showing the champs their respect. But Mike Brown may have that internal knowledge of how to take down the champs. Christy.
Yeah. Oh, no question about it. I mean, Mike Brown, Coach of the Year this year. De'Aaron Fox, one of the best clutch players, or the best clutch player in the league this season, and he's just playing with a sense of purpose and hunger that can't be measured. So the fact that he said, I may have fractured a digit on the top of my pinky finger or whatever, but I'm playing. Like, make no bones about it. Like, there's no way I'm not playing. So I love that in him. And kids listening, it's, you play through your injuries if you can, I guess. But I'm not telling you to or not to do that. But but you love the vigor, of him saying that. You understand, as an athlete, right, what that means. Like the way he said it, like, okay, I'm injured, but I'm playing. Like, that's the best I'm gonna say it. But I just think when you have a player like De'Aaron Fox, who he knows how vitally important he is to the team, but how and not just vitally important statistically, but pace of play, right? Mm-hmm. The way he pushes the tempo for the team, the way they get into their offense, the point of attack that he creates on his own is something that's totally different than anyone else in the league. John Wall used to be able to have that burst, right, and attack those elbows and collapse the defense and put them in a rotation just because of that speed. But now you're seeing another Kentucky dude and Fox to be able to do that with Sacramento.
It's a you know, that series is a phenomenal series, and there's so many things that have come out of that series already. And Christy, as you just mentioned about De'Aaron Fox, the fact that he plays with that pace and it's constant, constant. You know, and I think the young players everywhere can learn a lot from watching it. One, for that toughness, because that's the old school way where guys will come back and play with injuries. There's not even a question whether he's playing. He said, let me eliminate all of that right now. We're not going with questionable. I'm playing. So whether he got to take the finger, do the Ronnie Lester, cut it off, whatever, I'm playing. So I give him credit for that. I got hats off to Mike Brown for the tremendous job that he's done this year with his team. But I'm going to tell you something. The fact that the Warriors were down 0-2 and Draymond says, hey, we never done that before. Isn't that exciting? I mean, just to flip that around and go, it's the mindset. So again, if I'm a young player, then instead of being down for the fact that you're at a disadvantage, you flip it and go, hey man, this is exciting. We get a chance to do something that we've never done before. I mean, there's just so many of those things. For that turnover that Steph had that you just spoke about, Drew, and then for them to say, hey, you didn't see nobody drop, you didn't see anybody drop their heads. They continue to stay focused, and it's another lesson that to never give up, and a mistake doesn't have to be the end all, do all, or say all, and you can still survive it. You just have to play and just have to stay positive and keep that positive energy. I mean, there's so many things coming out of that series, or just the series period, but this one in particular, because we're talking about it right now, I'm just fascinated by it. I love it. I wish it could keep going on. I wish they can go the best out of 10 or the best out of 11, because I guess it has to be an odd number. But I want to keep seeing them play, and they're just right up the road. So you're only talking about an hour. So now you don't even have the factor of, like you had with the Lakers and Memphis, where they're traveling all the way across the country. These teams are probably sleeping in their own beds. And still, you know, it's like we're gonna go up the street and play, you know, the guys across town. It's an unbelievable series and fun to watch.
Yeah.
All right, lady and gent, we're going to go to a break right now. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to continue our discussion of the ongoing NBA playoffs that have been quite enthralling. And then we'll turn to discussion, time permitting, about the Wizards GM search, as Ted Leonsis surprised many by pulling the plug on Tommy Shepard after 4 years. So stay with us on the other side with Christy Scott and Todd Bozeman.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
Welcome back, and now we're going to continue our discussion of the ongoing NBA playoffs with Christy Scott and Todd Bozeman. And we were talking about that Sacramento Golden State series. Todd, you wished it could go best of 11, but it's going to be best of 7. Do you think the winner of Game 5 is going to ultimately win the series?
You know, I wouldn't say that. If it's Golden State, absolutely. But if Sacramento wins it, then I see it going 7 for sure. Because I see Golden State getting the victory when they come back in Game 6, and then I see them going back in 7. And again, you think about the difference in the mentality of the Warriors and the difference in the youth of the Kings. And a lot of times people say that they haven't been there, but the Kings are playing with a confidence level that is unbelievable. But the Warriors have that same, what Christy was just talking about Milwaukee, they have that same championship swag that champions have. And they're like, hey man, we're good. We're going to get it. This is exactly what they're in the position that we want them to be in, type thing. I mean, it doesn't matter how it is. They always flip it around and take the positive approach.
Yeah.
Well, elsewhere out west, and Christy and Todd, I'm going to go with you, Christy. I mean, Dylan Brooks, I mean, he has that dog in him, but at some time, you don't poke that. What did Doris Burke say? And she said it so well. if you come at the king, you best not miss. And Dylan Brooks, well, he didn't miss. He hit him in the family jewels, but LeBron, I think LeBron sold that a little bit. But they came back and they have a 3-1 series and have Memphis on the verge of putting him down. If you were the coach of Memphis, how would you handle Dylan Brooks and his persona? Because he gives them that Draymond Green factor that they need, but you don't come after LeBron like that.
You do not. And for me, I I'm still a coach at heart, but I think if I were coaching the Memphis Grizzlies, I am not a coach who would be okay with that. And I understand, like, you have to mentally get yourself somewhere to compete against a player the caliber of LeBron. Okay, I get that, but that's self-talk. That's within you, your own body and mind, right? That's not something that you share in the media and say, hey, you got to drop 40 on my head to give you any respect. Excuse me. Like, first of all, he has rings on rings, and you don't. So I think with that, I think you have to first of all, and as LeBron has displayed, you consider the source, which is why he has made no explanations or no conversation about Dylan Brooks. He's like, hey, man, listen, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this game that we just won. Okay. And that's it. And Dylan Brooks, you came for the king and you missed. And not only that, you missed your shots too. Like, you're not hitting your shots. You're not even playing good basketball right now. So, if you can back it up, that's one thing. But it's still, to me, not okay. It's not all about be a big personality and forget about your character. I just want ballers. That's not me as a coach. I don't respect coaches who say that, because it's more about who these young men are, who these young women are, who are playing the game and representing the game as good sports. And I know there's trash talk. I'm not saying, like, go out there and be buttoned up and don't say anything. And, like, no, you have to have the fire. You have to have the guts and the competitiveness to be able to compete at the elite level as a pro. I get that. But at the same time, you don't need to drag one of the best to ever play the game in the process, especially when you're not playing well. I mean, it's like levels to that. And he's just stepping in all of it. And I think it's really embarrassing for him, which is why he had all of that to say after game 2. And then the last 2 games, like, I'm out, like, I'm leaving, and he has nothing to say. And I'm like, well, you should have had nothing to say after game 2 as well, right? Let's just make that plain. So I just think, and that's just my personal opinion. If you're going to have that level of talk or trash talk or disrespect, do that in the confines of your own team locker room, and leave it in there. No media. You don't need to say that to Twitter or whoever. Like, if that's what you need to fire yourself up to shoot better, then do that. Because that didn't work. It didn't work, so it, backfired on them twice so far. Back-to-back losses for Memphis.
Well, Bose, at the time of our go ahead, Bose, you want to add on to that?
Well, what I was going to say was, I think it's a clear indication of how valuable vets are and how valuable someone is that has been through the experiences, because that shows a sign of immaturity. Now, you've had guys in the past that have talked like that, but they've been able to play as well and to back it up. So I think it shows the immaturity. I think it shows insecurity, because that's why he was talking and saying those things. I mean, when you are a champion, you're all about winning. You're not about making it a personal thing, saying you got to get 40 on me for me to respect you. Well, nobody's averaging 40, but they're respecting Steph, they're respecting Giannis, they're respecting other players. So just to say that, to me, it just shows the immaturity, and they could really benefit from having a vet to kind of help them, because they chirp like a young team. They play with immaturity, and that's a sign of not having solid leadership on their roster. And then one last thing, that when they talk about, and I'm not trying to change the subject, but when they talk about this GOAT conversation and the Jordan and LeBron, because my nephew, he texts me, Unc, you see, I say, listen. Nobody ever challenged Jordan like that.
Because he would make stuff up. He would make stuff up.
Yeah. He would make it up. Like they would go, no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Exactly.
So there in itself gives you an example of what happened, or the difference between the two. Like nobody would have ever said anything like that. They didn't even say that about Jordan when he came back and played with the Wizards. They didn't even say that. So no. that's a sign of respect. And to LeBron's credit, he treated him like he sunned him. And said, we're not even talking about that. Let's talk about something else. He just sunned him and kept on moving, which is what he should do, which is a sign of maturity. And you will hope that Memphis, they can keep getting better, and then they will then exhibit that kind of maturity and leadership as they progress in their careers, if they're fortunate enough to keep playing.
Absolutely.
Well, we got, at the time of our taping, we got 3 series tonight that are up 3-1, can all be eliminated. Denver, the #1 seed out west, is at home trying to close out. We got Boston at home trying to close out against Atlanta. And we got Phoenix, who unfortunately the Clippers, their dynamic duo just can't stay healthy. And Devin Booker is seeing the effect of playing with Kevin Durant. Do you think that which one of these series do you think, or do you think all of them, Christy, close out tonight?
I think they're all going to close out. I mean, that's just my personal feeling. But I think, like what you just said about Devin Booker playing with Kevin Durant, I think that dynamic, even though it's been a small little sample size of those guys being on the floor all together, with KD missing like a month or whatever, I just think that's the most intriguing thing that I'm going to be watching, just the way that they play off of one another, how it's opened up Devin Booker to be able to play in his true skill set. Right. I just think that, you can't blitz him. You can't, throw multiple coverages at him, because he's got, players that can set him up like Chris Paul, but you have KD who's just going to stretch the floor and knock in those shots. So I think they're all going to close out. I think Denver, they had some concerns, or they didn't dominate as they should have in the last game, but I think that they have it in them to go ahead and finish up as well. So I think, they all close out tonight.
Well, Bose, we only got 2 minutes left, so let's turn it quickly over to the Wizards GM search. Christy, you said that you were surprised that decision was made. Bose, were you surprised by it?
I was absolutely surprised by it, because it just came out of the blue and you didn't hear the chirps about it. So a lot of times you'll hear kind of small talk about it, and it kind of tremors, and then all of a sudden, boom, you hit it. But I didn't hear anything. It just kind of came out the blue. But I understand that, they want to shake some things up, and it's clear that he said they want to go outside the organization this time, which I would say is probably a good thing. And they just need to get somebody in to cultivate. Washington has so much to offer. I mean, it's a super city. It should be attractive to free agents. It's in a great area with a great fan base, as long as you win. And I just think that it's a tremendous opportunity. And hopefully, as a hometown guy, they get somebody in there that can do this thing right.
Christy, quickly, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'll just keep it personal with Tommy, just to be able to, sit in practices with the Wizards, Mystics, and just to be in the same space with him. I mean, he's always been a gracious man and a pro, and he loves the challenges that he was presented. And I thought that he did his best, and that's all you can do. I mean, he's a father. He's a husband. So, I mean, there are other things outside of his role that he had as the GM over 17 years, I believe he was with the organization. So just over the course of time, I mean, he was still calling me coach, like, okay, how you doing, coach? And I'm like, it's that endearing respect, the inclusivity. And that's what Wizards basketball is all about. So yeah, going with Bose too. I hope whoever gets the new position, has that same mindset.
Well, great job as always, Christy. They can catch you everywhere. They got the Mystics coming up, and Bose, they can catch you here and on HBCUGO. Great job, and we'll keep following the playoffs and the Wizards GM search on future shows. And remember, if it's happening on the court, we'll definitely we're on the ball. And for all of you aspiring basketball stars out there, don't ever forget that focusing on your education is the first step towards making your hoop dreams come true. So until next time, for the Roundball Report, I'm Andrew Dyer. Good night.